Following cross-party approval at the last Transport Committee to advertise draft speed limit orders, this report outlines the results of the formal speed limit order consultation process for the Phase 1 area only of the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit scheme. The draft speed limit orders were advertised on the 13th of December, with the closing date for comments and objections of the 3rd of January 2013. In total, 36 items of correspondence were received in response to the 7 traffic orders. 3 items of correspondence were received in support of the proposal, all were from residents, 2 living within the area and 1 without, while the remaining 33 items of correspondence were objections to the proposals. 11 objections self-identified as being from the taxi trade, 3 from representative organisations, 8 from individual taxi drivers. No residents objected to the speed limit being lowered on their own road. 14 of the objections were received from residents living outside of the area covered by the orders. All unresolved objections and representations are identified and discussed in this report and are now being referred to this committee for resolution.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma. And we have an amendment from the Labour and Culture Group. Is that being distributed? Yeah, okay. So, Councillor Robbins, Councillor Mitchell, would you like to introduce the amendment, please?
Yeah, I'll just read on. Subject to the above order at 2.1, remove all A and B roads where they form part of the city's main bus network from Phase 1 of the 20-mile-an-hour scheme to reflect the recommendations in the report of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit stroke zones of the scrutiny panel and in line with submissions from the bus company and the taxi trade.
Here, here.
Chair, I would second that. We did have a very thorough debate on this at the previous Transport Committee, and we were happy to go out to advertise the TROs to see what came back. In terms of the representations from the bus company, they haven't changed their submission at all. They are concerned about their ability to still run the same amount of services in the evening, through the night, and in the early morning because of the 33.3% reduction in speed. And the taxi trade have put forward similar concerns in relation to the livelihood of the drivers, but also in terms of community safety concerns. And we do actually think those community safety concerns have to be taken seriously. Particularly ethnic minority taxi drivers are, I think, at greater risk from passengers abusing them and so on. And I think there is a risk that passengers will think taxi drivers are just having a bit of a laugh by going along so slowly and might not actually fully understand the reasons for it. And therefore, bearing in mind that the seafront is not proposed to be included, nor is Sackville Road, nor is Old Shoreham Road, we also believe that the other A roads can and should be taken out from the scheme. We fully accept the road safety benefits of 20-mile-an-hour zones, absolutely. And we accept the reasons for you wanting to keep the scheme as simple as possible and therefore to spread it over a wide area. But we do feel that we have to keep the public transport network running. We have to keep the buses running. We want people to use the buses. Likewise, we want people to be able to use taxis. Therefore, the amendment seeks to just remove A roads and those selected B roads that are part of the main bus network. If, after a couple of years, after people have got used to this, maybe it could be reconsidered and they could be added. As this goes along, and with discussion on further phases, it's a bit of an experiment. But at this stage, initial stage, we would be happier if we could see them taken out, notwithstanding your recommendation on the paper at 2.2, which talks about mitigating action if need be. Thank you, Chair.
Well said, Chair.
Could I just ask for the sake of clarity of understanding, do you have a list of which roads they would be so people, members of the committee, know what they're being asked to consider?
They would be the roads that are classified A roads and then the B roads would be those roads that form part of the
Yeah,
bus
I
network.
understood that. Do you know which roads they are? Could you say which roads they
We
are?
haven't got a list of roads. We leave that to officers, to technical officers.
Okay, I just thought in order for people to be clear about what they're being asked to vote on, it'd be really handy to know actually which roads they are.
Exactly.
Could I just ask a legal question? Liz, how does this stand legally?
I think in terms of a legal position it's fine as a proposal because it's clear enough for officers to go away and act on if they're voted through. Officers will be able to act on an implement.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you. So I've got Councillor West, Councillor Clearwater.
Thank you, Chair. I believe that some of the roads that fall into the categories mentioned as A and B roads are already 20 miles an hour, so this proposal would actually require them to be made 30 rather than 20. They already are.
Only West.
Chair, when we survey people on the four-phase rollout, of the 3,689 respondents from 10,000 surveys, so that's a very good response rate, 55% of people said that they were going to fail. So I think first of all we need to establish the fact that people want this 20 mile an hour.
Absolutely.
And the key players here for these questions that are being asked, the police have no objection to this phase one rollout. And their default is whether or not the scheme is going to make sense and whether it's going to be self-enforcing. And the average speeds in the city centre are below 24 miles an hour, and therefore this scheme will be self-enforcing. The bus companies have only asked for some of the main routes to be taken out, not all of the main routes.
Didn't hear Roger French on the radio this morning.
And I understand the taxi trade have been consulted quite considerably. There's been three meetings attended, including the taxi forum. Some of the other questions coming up about we don't want to mess up the bus system by slowing it down. 70 to 80% of the journey time in the city centre, in this area that we're talking about here, is down to congestion, or junctions, traffic lights and so on. It's not due, it won't be impacted upon by actually reducing the speed limit in the area. Congestion is the issue. I could also add that smoother driving, because it reduces the speed limits, actually improves the flow of traffic as well.
Sorry, can I please ask members of the audience to stop interrupting, please?
But I want to talk about public safety because Councillor Mitchell said that she's interested in community safety. 43%, this report says, 43% of pedestrian casualties in the city happen within phase one area in the city centre. And 48% of casualties, I know you're referring to within taxis, but I'm interested in community safety as well. 43% of pedestrian casualties happen in the city centre, and 48%, that's what it says in the report, Councillor, 48% of cyclist casualties happen in this area as well. Now, I chaired the scrutiny panel, Councillor Mitchell sat on that scrutiny panel that looked at the 20 mile an hour question. And the suggestion that the scrutiny recommendations do not support this proposal are not correct. I'm being interrupted, Chair, and it's making it very difficult. The questions that came up in the scrutiny panel clearly stated in the recommendations is that vulnerable road users need to be protected. Now, if the pedestrian casualties and the cyclist casualties don't demonstrate the vulnerability of road users within the city centre area, I don't know what does. It also quite clearly states in those recommendations that we will be looking at limits for roads below 24 miles an hour, which this area does. And I have got the recommendations here, if we want to go through them at length. They are quite clear. The other germane point is that you need to cluster the roads together so that it's coherent. And the proposal here to take out roads that cut through the middle of this area, which already meet the other criteria necessary, would make it entirely incoherent. And it just would not work. And I do not see an argument from the opposition here for their position. It doesn't make any sense. It will not improve road safety for so many people in the city centre. And the scheme that's been devised here is completely stacked up. I'll refer to one thing. If you want to look at evidence from outside, because there's a growing number of cities that are already introducing 20 mile an hour. It's to our shame that the city hasn't joined that fold. In Bristol, they say they've had no adverse impact upon the bus journey times. And I've been on their buses, and there's a very good bus service there. And I think we need to use that sort of evidence to support what we're doing. I'm not the suppositions of some people that are concerned about this. We press ahead with this scheme, Chair. I think I've probably said enough.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tilley.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, you've already decided to defer the Brighton Station scheme, quite rightly in my view, and frankly this is equally, if not more, affecting far more people. I would have thought that this ought to be deferred.
Here.
And I'll tell you the reason why I think it should be deferred. Roughly follows on from what I said last time, Chairman. I don't believe, when I was the Cabinet Member for the Environment and in response to the scrutiny panel, I made it clear that as far as the Conservative group is concerned, whereas we supported 20 miles an hour, we did not support a whole blanket scheme. Now this scheme goes from Sackville Road at one side, right the way across to Freshfield Road to the other. Now I can understand in some ways why you've selected this part of the city, and why you don't wish to have roads such as Cromwell Road excluded, because that will obviously cost more money, because you've got to put more signs up. But it doesn't alter the fact, in my view, that if you're going to do something like this, then you need to do it to meet the majority of people's views. I said last time that I think there will be a lot of irate passengers and taxis in particular. When people get into taxis on the seafront and the taxi goes at 20 miles an hour for the first stage, people will think that the taxi, that they see the meter going up. And we'll also be in the situation for the buses, number 7 bus route in particular, that going on at 20 miles an hour at 10 o'clock at night. A lot of people would say that this doesn't make sense. You know, what we would have done, you know, we would have, as has happened already in the city, we have 20 mile an hour areas now, and very good ones. We would have had clusters in residential areas and dealt with it in that particular way, rather than this enormous area in the city centre. Now, the reason I suggest that we defer this is because I look at the Labour, and whereas I have sympathy for what the Labour Party amendment is suggesting, there is a fact that 1 or 2 of the roads which buses go down, as has been correctly pointed out by Councillor West, and I can think of 1 or 2 roads, which quite frankly, I don't think it would be too effective to make those 30 miles an hour. And I do like to know what I'm voting for, quite frankly, and that's why I'm going to suggest, for the 3rd time, I'm sorry, we should defer this, so that we can get a proper list of roads that would be excluded. I've already alluded to one, Cromwell Road. Maybe there are 1 or 2 others as well. There are 1 or 2 in the Labour amendment, if I look at this, that frankly, if you're going to do this scheme, then frankly, I wouldn't agree with it. So I'm going to suggest that we defer this until the next meeting, so that we can really, so I'd certainly like to have the roads and the implications of the roads before I actually vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with the proposed amendment, and Councillor Clearmore, I think, has knocked it off from the head with clear logic, and I don't see need to add to that. Where I am more in support of the general proposal that the Council is making is really for sort of 2 quite clear reasons. One, which comes actually from the scrutiny report, which Councillor Mitchell mentions, which is about the importance of clustering and coherence, otherwise the scheme doesn't work. And then the second one actually is about safety evidence. It's very, very clear, and it has been for years, and you can go to all number of places. I mean, the independent front page talks about London School of Hygiene, Tropical Medicine. You can go to the World Health Organization. You can go to all the other authorities, you know, some run by Labour and other parties too, I'm sure, who are doing this. The evidence for public safety here is incontrovertible. It is unarguable. And so it seems to me that where you have a choice between a possible element of safety, so you know, I take it as a genuine concern that Councillor Mitchell has about the community safety aspects, but that has been raised, it has been looked at. We see no evidence of other authorities of having that problem. So when I'm confronted with no evidence of a problem and clear evidence of the dangers of not getting things down to 20 miles an hour, particularly in terms of fatalities, it seems to be very clear cut. And so I won't be voting for the amendment for the reasons that Councillor Field has laid out. I will be voting for the general report for the very fact is that this is an idea whose time has come. More and more authorities are doing this. We can't play pick and mix with it, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay? The safety of people has to be the most important thing. We should just press on and it's about time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phillips.
Whilst I agree with everything that Councillor Follett has just said, I'd just like to say that it's not just about public safety, it's about making places, nice places for people to live as well. And I've done some canvassing along that road, that long stretch of road that starts in the Dials with Goldsmith Road, turns into Daventry Road and then Cromwell Road. And there are over 1,000 people that live there and would like their immediate surroundings to be much more pleasant. And this is a really good way of doing that. And there was a recent Comrades survey that showed that there was support of something like 60% of the public backing this. And the majority of those people were, well, it was particularly high support in any case, among women, younger people and pensioners. And many of those groups of people live along that road. So I think we need to bear that in mind too. Thank you.
Councillor Cox.
Yes, thank you. I noticed I'm not a woman, a young person or a pensioner. I do support the principle of 20-mile-an-hour schemes, but I do think the evidence is quite compelling and self-evident. People are less likely to be killed if they're hit by a car doing 20 miles an hour than they are a car doing 30 miles an hour. So I do understand the case for 20-mile-an-hour limits. I also understand why it's being done in the city centre first. I think that's quite sensible. A little bit worried the area's a bit too big, but I do understand why that's happening. I think there have been two elements that we've not been able to address properly. Clearly, something's gone wrong with the consultation with the taxi trade. Our taxi drivers are key parts of the public servants in the city, key parts of the public transport network. We seem to have, the administration seems to have completely alienated them on this matter. And I think that's disappointing. It's a shame that we have not been able to get them on board, maybe with a couple of appropriate concessions. I do think the bus issue is relevant, maybe not quite as compelling as the failure to get the taxi drivers on board. And I totally understand what Councillor West was saying about the buses during the day and the fact that they don't go at 20. The average speed is not much more than 20 miles an hour anyway. I understand all of that, but I do still think the night bus issue is relevant. Yeah. Night bus issue is a very, very valuable service, and the turnaround time of, for example, the number 7 at night is half what it is during the day. So it takes like an hour and 10 minutes to do its round during the day. It takes 37 minutes at night. As a result of that, you put more buses on, you need less staff, and the financial viability of the night bus, particularly that 7, that very valuable service, could be put in jeopardy. However, I accept that in 2.2 of the recommendation, you know, there is a implicit recognition that if that proves to be a problem, there will be something done about it. But the reason I can't support the Labour amendment, and obviously it would be very easy to just support it and, you know, win a certain amount of short-term popularity by doing so. The reason I can't accept it is it's completely uncosted. So adding to the points that my colleague Councillor Tilley made, you know, what is it going to cost to put in all these signs? We need signs in every road running between Church Road and Daffodil Goldsmith. So what's the cost of those? Quite a lot. You presumably would have Tisbury Road, which has got a regular bus service at 30 miles an hour, whereas in fact I think there's very compellingly for Tisbury Road to be 20 miles an hour. So there's too many holes in the amendment. That's why I couldn't support it. You know, I think it needs thinking through. I do think that Councillor Tilley made a good point about doing it further so that we get this absolutely right. But you know, if it comes down to it, I would rather we didn't spend money now putting in a load of signs that don't do the job and confusing it, than 2.2, which is about spending the money later if it turns out the fears about the bus service and the fears the taxi drivers have, we can then spend some money to remedy it. I'd rather not spend the money on a load of signs up front in an uncosted way now. So I certainly can't support the amendment as it stands.
Okay, thank you. So we've got Councillor Janio next, I think. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't really going to speak on this, but some of the things that people have said, I think I'd like to come back on. I think the first thing, I think the three of us, we've actually fought at 20 mile an hour areas in our wards at some time, and we thoroughly agree that in certain areas where it's warranted, especially where there are children or there are narrow roads or it's dangerous, these areas are warranted. And I think Councillor Mitchell's got the report there, so I can't read it. But I think it did originally, the scrutiny report that Councillor West was talking about, did talk about clusters. And I can remember receiving the report and saying, before long you'll be joining the clusters up and it'll be a blanket across the city. And he assured me at all the meetings, no, they had no intention of putting it as a blanket across the city. And it's probably we could dive into the minutes and find it. So I think the original intention was to have clusters of 20 miles an hour. And I know what's happened. The officers have gone back and said, sorry, Councillor, this is too expensive, so you've gone for a blanket. And that's no way to run a city as far as I'm concerned, because there's other arguments as well. Councillor Follett mentioned safety. Well, ban kids from swimming, ban them from playing sport. Exactly. Don't take a flight, don't take a train. Exactly. Sit at home, don't do anything. But of course we all know that most accidents happen at home, so life is a risk. If we have these areas between 1 hours in sensible areas where residents want them, where they can put petitions in and actually do want them, then we've minimised enough risk. So I think the safety issue, you can go away and say that I want people to kill small children in cars. That's not what I'm saying. Life is a risk, and we need to balance that with life in this city. And that leads me on to the other thing, is that you said that other cities have tried this. Well, Portsmouth it's refused to say how it's gone because they hate the system, really, but they can't say that. And I heard the reports that Oxford are about to remove theirs because it just hasn't worked in Oxford. So the fact that other cities have tried it, if you actually look at the evidence, I know the Green Party don't like to look at evidence very much, but if you actually look at the evidence is to suggest that these schemes are not working. So can we please have a look at some of the evidence and bring it back to this committee to say whether these schemes are working. But the thing that has really got to me most is what an incredibly divisive thing this is. We're all elected councillors here to represent this city, and you can bandy figures about 45%, 55%, 47%. There's no overwhelming spirit that people need this across the city. The taxi drivers are going to suffer, the bus drivers are going to suffer. People are really going to suffer in this city if this blanket ban goes through. It's a very, very divisive policy. I think the Green Party should have the courage to postpone this and put it in their manifesto, make it absolutely explicit in their manifesto. This is what they intend to do. And then we'll let the people of this city vote on whether they want this scheme as a blanket across the city. Other than that, it should not go ahead in its present form.
Thank you very much for your speech.
The best thing I've heard
That's a genuine. I'm sure if you were to read the manifesto, you would see it there kind of as one of the main priorities. Councillor Robbins.
I'll probably have trouble finding that. I'll do my best. There's probably somebody who actually, I'm the only person on this committee who makes a living actually driving around the city all day, every day. Sometimes I think 20 miles an hour would be a dream, absolutely, yeah, rather than an aspiration rather than a reality. But I'm never convinced by the safety aspect of this. I mean, if you're travelling at 30 miles an hour and someone steps out in front of you, you don't continue at 30 miles an hour, you apply your brakes. Right. And I think it shows that in the result of a person-to-car accident, it's actually, normally the impact speed is 12 miles an hour rather than 30 miles an hour. And 50% of people don't die if they're hit in 30 mile an hour limits, and only 5 don't die. So I'm never convinced by the safety aspect of this. But I also see a lot of parallels and a lot of similarities in this and the parking charges imposed in London Road, in the fact that we completely ignored the people who lived there, people who tell us time and time again that this wasn't working. And in this case, we're completely ignoring the taxi drivers, the bus drivers, and everybody else. They tell us that we live this, we do this every day, it's our jobs, it's what we do, and we're telling you that it won't work for us. We completely ignore that and say, no, we know far better than you do, and if we happen to be wrong, perhaps we can do something about it later. Much like we did with the parking charges in London Road. Keep telling the traders, no, you're entirely wrong, it's the weather that's causing the drop-off. Now we've made a U-turn and we've actually reduced the cost. So I think that there's a lot of similarities, and I think we should take time to listen to the people whose work it is and the people who make their living this week, and the people who know what they're talking about.
Okay, thanks very much. Really interesting. I don't think there's any calls for residents that live on those streets not to have speed limits reduced on their streets. So I think everybody that's indicated has had their contribution. So, Councillor Theobald, was that a firm proposal that you're putting forward to the vote? And do you want to say exactly what that is then? You wish your microphone.
I would just like this item deferred to the next meeting or even the meeting after that, so that there can be further consultation with the taxi drivers in particular. I'd certainly want to learn more about the actual routes of buses, because I think some of the roads I wouldn't, what I've already said, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think I've explained why I think this should be deferred rather than rushed through today.
Okay, just generally voting.
Do you want me to read it out? So it will be an amendment to defer a decision on the matter to a future meeting of the Transport Committee, to further consultation with taxi drivers be undertaken, and further details of proposed routes
and the bus
included.
Okay.
So
wants to say something?
Sorry, just need a seconder for your...
Oh yeah, you got a seconder? Councillor Mitchell. Yeah, thanks.
Well, as the report quite clearly states, there has been consultation with taxis. I'm sorry if members of those trades are not necessarily getting around here, but the officers have clearly gone out of their way to communicate with...
Not sufficiently, they have.
And that is what is now wrong. Now, we're at an advanced stage with this, and now the opposition coming back and asking for, oh, well, what route are they, and things like this. And, it's extremely disingenuous.
It's their right.
We've had an awful lot of hot air, I'm afraid, about...
Okay, can I suggest we move to the vote? Yes, okay.
I'm proposing this off and on, because quite frankly, the sooner we get this scheme in, the better. Because I don't want it on my conscience. We delayed this, and somebody else got it done.
All those...
Positively Darwinian.
Well, I think if we vote on the deferment first. Yeah. Okay, so we vote on deferment first. So all those in favour of deferring this? And all those against? So I think the meeting's lost.
You're using your cast vote, are you?
Okay, so it's just not carried. Okay, thank you. So then we move to the vote on the actual recommendation. Can you take us through this, John? Would that be the best thing? Or, okay, so well, I think we need to vote on the amended item first. So that is 2 point, just not, sorry, excuse me, I just want to make sure we get this right. So I think we vote on 2.3 first. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so we vote. Yeah. So just so everybody's clear. So what we're going to do is vote on the amendment first, and that is 2.3, which is the Labour additional recommendation. Yeah, and then we will vote on 2.1 and 2.2. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So all those in favour of 2.3, which is okay. Thank you. All those against? Thank you. And abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. So that amendment is lost. So then I'll move to the actual recommendation. So all those in favour of 2.1? Okay, thank you very much. And all those in favour of 2.2? Thank you very much. So both of those are carried. Okay, thank you very much. So now we move on.